legal fund management. Stock market rebounds, shaking off election jitters as crude oil rises for a fifth day Tuesday. Details of these and more on this edition of Business Express, reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. I am Amina Nujain. Welcome to the program. Authorities at the Nigerian Stock Exchange, NSE, will this weekend launch a new trading platform for collective investment schemes, CIS, otherwise known as mutual funds. The platform is expected to facilitate electronic transactions with seamless connections among key parties in transactions, including the exchange, Central Securities Clearing System, stockbrokers, and fund managers. The NSE says the new platform aims to improve and enhance access of listed mutual funds to investors. It also expected to engender listing of more mutual funds at the exchange. This edition of Business Express will focus on election postponement and the capital market. In the studio with us today, we have Sheyinde Adenagbe. He is with Standard Union Securities. Glad to have you join us on Business Express today.
Thank you very much.
Now, talking about postponement, would you say it put pressure on the stock market?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's very correct. Definitely, expectations were dashed. So it becomes a situation where many investors are now jittery on what to do. Should I hold on? Should I sell? Should I raise capital? Many things happen. So definitely, that's why you see that immediately after the postponement, the market just went flat.
Okay, in situations like this, what would the right action be for investors who have jitters?
Well, it is a situation where we have to let them know that the situation will not remain like this forever.
Okay.
More so that elections have been taking place in Nigeria, they've been coming, they've been going. So our advice to them is that every investor should just keep their calm, keep their cool. The storm will be over and Nigeria will remain, and the stock market will be better for it, because the stock market, you see that the prices are still very low. And if you rush out now, that means by the time the stock market starts picking up, you cannot get it.
So that means for an investor, strategizing right now is key.
Very, very key. This is the time to take a strategic position in the market, because after the wave of the elections, there will be stability, and once there's stability, investors' confidence comes back, security is there. The next thing is that all the prices will be moving up. Take also note that we will soon be having a release of so many corporate actions, releasing of results for corporate performances.
I will get to that. But for now, still going into the reactions following the postponement of the elections,
okay.
The Naira weakened. Stocks fell on the first trading day after the postponement. Then we have a situation where bond yields rose. Now, can you paint a vivid picture of what this means?
Thank you very much. You see, just immediately after the announcement, people were caught unawares. And the market, both the money market and the capital market, went down. Why? Because a lot of people who were trying to take position before the postponement, they felt very bad. They could not interpret what has really transpired. Is my money safe? Is it not safe? Should I wait? Should I continue? This has been the issue. So for bond to rise is to tell you that it's a tenured instrument. It has maturity time, So even if whatever happens, it doesn't really affect bonds yield drastically, because it's a debt instrument which has, either you like it or not, the tenure is there, the rates are also there, and for every investor in the market, they will know that, well, I still have so much years to go before the maturity, so they can still move on. That's what happened. But for equity holders, you know, they are always very, very careful and conscious of where to put their money. And because the announcement made it possible for people not to really have confidence immediately. You know, it's just an immediate thing. And that is the immediate reaction. You know, market thrives on information. And that information was very negative. That will happen.
Okay, still talking about that. The week before the postponement, there was a build-up. And the week after, that's Monday, it was red. Yeah. It seems the jitters were shaking off on Tuesday. What does that tell you?
Yes, you see, a week before the postponement, people were taking position strategically. And that is not to tell you that, well, at a point, people want to have a, what we call gains of the market. So on Tuesday, those that have put in money previous week, they felt, well, if they are postponing the market, the elections, the best thing for me is to at least let me cut short whatever loss I might incur. Let me take advantage of the rise I've experienced in the few days. Let me take some money back. That's why you see a lot of sell-off went in. And people really gathered money. They raised money for that Tuesday. And let me tell you that it's just for a moment. Okay. It will soon move on.
We will continue this conversation in a moment. We will go out for an outside broadcast. Please do stay tuned.
And update us on where we are with the arrangements for Saturday's election. Honorable Chairman, sir.
We welcome you to the second day of the daily press briefing series of the INEC. This is a platform where the INEC chairman gives a progress report in terms of preparations ahead of this week's Saturday's presidential election. The commission came up with 6-point agenda, schedule of activities to ensure a free and fair elections. Yesterday, we were updated on 2 cardinal issues: distribution, deployment of materials, and reconfiguration of smart card readers.
And members of the various observer missions, yesterday I recognized a new addition to the list of our colleagues from electoral commissions that the leadership of that commission wasn't represented at the first briefing. And today I'm glad to say that we have another addition. The leadership of the Electoral Commission of the Republic of Cameroon, ELECAM, has joined us. So please let's welcome the team from the Republic of Cameroon. Let me warmly welcome you to the 3rd briefing since Saturday on the state of preparedness of the Commission for the elections on Saturday this week. At yesterday's briefing, we reported that we achieved 95% configuration of the smart card readers nationwide. For those who might wonder why we are laying so much emphasis on the smart card readers, particularly the international observers, I want to say that the card readers were introduced in 2015 to facilitate the accreditation of voters using the permanent voter. They were configured to specific polling units and only for use at 8 in the morning on election day. Shut down by 10 p.m. in order to forestall any illegal use of the card readers before the appointed time for elections. That is why we had to reconfigure them to the new date of Saturday, the 23rd of March. As I said earlier, yesterday I reported 95% configuration. I am pleased to report that we have now achieved 100% completion of the configuration. We are good to go on this score. Similarly, I briefed you yesterday that our state offices had commenced the process of inviting stakeholders to the branches of the Central Bank of Nigeria to examine the retrieved materials deployed last week and to witness the batching of materials according to local government areas. Reports we received from the states indicate full compliance. So on this score, we are good to go. Similarly, I briefed you yesterday that having moved the sensitive materials to the 37 states and the Federal Capital Territory, the forward deployment to the 774 local government areas nationwide will commence today, Wednesday, 20th February 2019, and be concluded tomorrow, Thursday, 21st February 2019. Already, 10 states, Adamawa, Anambra, Benue, Ekiti, Jigawa, Katsina, Ogun, Oshun, Oyo, and Taraba have commenced the movement of materials to the local governments today. Other states will do so and conclude tomorrow. We will give a full rendition of movement to local government areas across all the states of the Federation at the 3 p.m. briefing tomorrow. We have been making good progress on logistics. All other arrangements for the movement of personnel from the local government areas to the wards are on course. We'll also fully brief you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Once again, I welcome you to this briefing and will be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
So that is the update on our preparedness for Saturday. I do know that a couple of people must have some questions or clarifications they wish to make or they want to hear about. So amongst the media, the observers, anybody who has questions to ask, let me start from the observers. Does any domestic or international observer have any questions? Kindly indicate. Any questions from any of our partners or the observers? None? Okay, great. So the media, okay, sorry, please. Where's the second mic? I give it to him. Election monitor. Just 1 second. Let it move. Can I see, we have one observer, domestic observer, who wishes to ask a question or make a comment. Can I see any other so that we'll just take all the observers at the same time? Any other? Okay. Let's hear that of the observer first, then we'll get to the media. Thank you. Okay, election monitor. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir. Once again, we thank you for these press briefings, and clearly a lot of progress is being made, which is commendable. Okay, I have a couple of questions. The first one is, what is INEC's position on political parties which intend to create mirror results or mirror image of the election results and probably would want to release them, maybe after INEC has declared the official results. How does INEC view this? Secondly, last week during the briefing for accredited observers, I asked a question about, there was an issue about if there's a disruption in a polling unit. And we were told that if there's a disruption, the voting will continue the next day. So I now asked, what about those who have already accredited from the first day? Since the card reader would shut down by 10 p.m., which you also repeated today, would this not be a challenge the next day for those who accredited the previous day? So the response we received was that the card reader is an enhanced card reader that can store the data till the next day. I want to get clarification on this, because if it can store data to the next day, it's also another problem in itself. So I would like to confirm that. And lastly, sir, on the day of election, diplomats that are not accredited observers, that is, they are not part of an international election observer mission, are they allowed to move around on election day? Thank you.
Since we put, you just cover a logo. As you look. Then you bring it, but you use it to cover a logo.
Can I get the questions from the media then? Media. Number one, number two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So let's 7 will be enough for now, please. Number one.
Yeah, my name is Vincent Ikomola, and I work with the Nation newspaper. First, my first question is, I just want to know the cost implication of the postponement of the election to INEC.
The cost implication of the postponement to INEC.
The cost implication of the postponement to INEC. Then second, yesterday the chairman promised to give us the PVC collection.
Update on PVC collection.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Number two? No, I think, no. Premium Times is number two.
Good afternoon. My name is Lois Bede from Premium Times. We did a story on conflicting figures on how much INEC is supposed to pay ad hoc staff for their training allowance, because there have been complaints from different areas on how much the standard payment is supposed to be. So we'll note states that are underpaying or not paying at all. So I would like to know what's the standard amount for ad hoc staff. Thank you.
Okay. Number three? Number three, gentleman in pink. You're number three now. Number three. You're number three.
Good afternoon, sir. Chairman, my name is Vin Oligi, I report for Voice of Nigeria. So there's this trending information on social media that coming Saturday, people should watch out with ballot papers that has date of 16th of this month, that they should not don't print there. So what is the true position of that, sir?
Number four.
Good afternoon, Chairman. My name is Amadine Uyi. I report for Plus TV Africa. I want to get an update on arrangements being made by INEC for persons living with disability to make the elections, the polls, more inclusive.
Number five.
Good day, sir. My name is Emeka Marco from TV 360. Sir, there is this information we got that the presidential candidate for National Rescue Movement, Usman Ibrahim Al-Haji, actually took the commission, INEC, to court for failure to disqualify the APC and PDP, having overshot their 1 billion naira campaign finance. What's your position on this, sir?
Number six. No, hold number six, please. We'll finish. That's 7 people I recognized.
Yeah, good afternoon. I just want to know how much is going to cost INEC in this rescheduled election. Okay, and they said it has been answered. And again, the conditions of the youth corpers that we saw lying down on bare floor, I want to, because the chairman told us here a few days ago that there were makeshift camp for them, but then we saw a lot of them, ad hoc staff, lying down on the floor. Has something different been done for these ad hoc staffs? Thank you.
Thank you. Number 7, please.
Thank you very much. My question to the chair.
Your name first.
Samson Itodo, Niagara, Africa.
Thank you.
Chair, have you received any reports about some sensitive materials that are missing, be them result sheets or ballot papers? Because there are reports that for some elections in Enugu, for instance, by one of the senatorial districts, a result sheet is missing. It would be great to actually comment on that particular issue. Thank you.
Sorry, number 6, can you confirm your identity and your organization, please? We missed that.
Yeah, I remain Lizzie Chippy. I write for Other Paper.
Thank you. Perhaps the chairman wants to answer those 7 questions before we take other questions. Honorable Chairman, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. First, Biodun Ajijola from Election Monitors. INEC's position on political parties that create mirror images of election results. Well, I must say that it's even unnecessary for a political party to create any mirror image of an election result. If the party is participating in any of the elections, it will surely have polling agents. And the polling agents will be given copies of the results, the duplicate copies of the results from the polling units. So when you are going to be given a duplicate copy of the results from the polling units, why do you need your own mirror image of that result? But in any case, for others who are interested in following the process, particularly the integrity of the collation process, we said that we are going to paste the form EC60E, which is like the mirror image of the EC8A, the results that are given to party agents or polling agents at the polling units. And this will be available, and it's official, it's from the Commission. And in the past, and I said so severally, political parties, civil society organizations, the media, others, using smartphones, were able to take pictures of the results pasted at the polling units after the elections. And it gives them an idea, if they're able to compile the results from quite a number of polling units or even a constituency, of what the outcome of the election is in advance of official declaration. So when the Commission is going to give political parties copies of the results, the EC8As and Bs and Cs across until declaration, and when we have the EC60Es, we see no need for political parties to have what is called the mirror image of the result issued by the Commission. In any case, they are going to have copies of the real results. So why have a mirror image of that result? Then secondly, Ajijola, you talked about disruption at PU. Will voting continue? Now, if there is a disruption that requires the continuation of voting the following day, then obviously the card reader will quickly be reconfigured. And that shouldn't be difficult to do because we are talking specifically about a single smart card reader. But if you have a situation where voting is disrupted, election concluded, and the number of registered voters in that particular polling unit is unlikely to make a difference to the margin of lead in the election, then the law says that the Commission can go ahead and make a declaration. But where it is necessary to go back and we need to reconfigure the card readers, I assure you we are going to do so. If it is one polling unit, it's easier actually to do so than several polling units. But as a matter of policy of the Commission, which is embedded in the technology, smart card readers work between 8 in the morning and 10 p.m. They shut down automatically. So if there is need to you extend voting to another day, then obviously the card readers will have to be reconfigured. Then finally, you talked about unaccredited diplomats, diplomats going around on election day. I'm unsure that any unaccredited diplomat will go around on election day. The truth is that citizens' movement is restricted on election day to only the places where they need to go and vote, but citizens are free to hang around the polling units after voting to witness the processes of sorting out the ballot, counting, and also declaration of the result for that polling unit. And so I will advise those who would like to go around on election day to respect the restriction of movement between 6 in the morning and 6 p.m. This applies to all citizens as well as guests of the Nigerian government by way of diplomats. Only those who are accredited can move around on election day to observe the electoral process. I hope that answered the question, Ajijola. Vincent, the nation, cost implication of the postponement. It is impossible to put a finger on a figure at this point. It is when the process is over that you can talk about the cost implication of the postponement. But just as we have admitted that there will be costs, not only to the Electoral Commission, but even to the media, people like you, observers and others, because not many people bargain for a longer period to observe the elections. But for these circumstances well beyond the control of the Commission, for which we have explained and taken full responsibility. So it's after the election that we'll know what the full cost implication is. I guess also it's going to be difficult if I ask you the same question. What will be the cost implication of the postponement on the deployment of reporters from your organization? Certainly this will not be known now until after the elections. But obviously there will be costs. Update on PVC collection, I promised so yesterday on the understanding that the Commission was going to meet today so that we can put it on our website. The Commission is meeting tomorrow, and I promise you that by the time we brief you at 3 p.m. tomorrow, the information will be available on our website. Premium times, conflicting figures of payment to ad hoc staff. Well, it depends on what you mean by the categories of ad hoc staff. The Commission believes that ad hoc staff are in categories. There are collation officers, supervisory presiding officers, we have returning officers, and we also have presiding officers. But I guess by ad hoc staff, we are referring to the presiding officers, those who will play a role at the various polling units. And we have 4 minimum at polling units. Presiding officers, then the assistant presiding officers 1, 2, and 3. This is the category of ad hoc staff that we train and deploy. And let me say, this is what their entitlements are. First, for the period of training of the ad hoc staff, is the sum of 4,500 naira per head, which includes money for transportation and money for refreshment or feeding. They are trained for a period of 3 days. They transport themselves to the venue of training. And each one trained gets 1,000 naira per day times 3. That is 3,000. And then we have some small provision for feeding. It's 500 naira per day times 3, which comes to 1,500. So put together, they will have 4,500 naira for training. Then for deployment on election, for election duty, they're entitled again to transport and feeding allowance and an honoraria of 9,000 naira. 9,000 naira honoraria, additional 4,000, additional 3,000, making it 10, 12, no, additional 4,000, making it 13,000, plus the 14,700. Each one of them is entitled to 17,500 naira. That is the standard allowance. Let me repeat. 4,500 naira for training, then other allowances for deployment to the polling units plus the 9,000 honoraria, making a total of 13,000 plus 4,500, making a total of 17,500. That is for the first election. For the second election, because no training is involved, there is no provision for the 4,500 naira meant for training. So they will get the 13,000. So if you put the two together, 17,500 plus 13,000, that is 30,500 naira. So that is the allowance that we are going to pay the ad hoc staff in the category of POs and APOs 1, 2, and 3 for the two elections, national and state. I hope I've answered the question premium times. Voice of Nigeria, ballot papers stamped. This is a standard procedure. When you receive the ballot paper, the presiding officer at the polling unit will stamp the back of the ballot paper, sign, and put a date. I haven't seen what he said was posted online, but just to reiterate that this is the standard procedure of the commission. It's going to be at the date the election is conducted. So each and every ballot paper will be stamped by the presiding officer at the polling unit. Plus TV Africa, arrangement for persons with disabilities. It's the same arrangement that we have consistently made. I've spoken about this over and over again, but let me also say that the arrangement depends on the type of disability. For instance, the albinos complained that they were unable to identify the logos of the parties of their choice on the ballot papers in the afternoon. So we contacted the Albino Foundation and requested them to advise the commission on what we should do. The Albino Foundation advised the commission to procure and deploy magnifying glasses. We procured and deployed magnifying glasses in the in the Anambra governorship election through to Ekiti and Oshun. And we are going to deploy magnifying glasses in the 2019 general elections. We have worked with the Albino Foundation. They have given us statistics on places where we have the concentration of the albinos so that we can deploy the magnifying glasses maximally. So this is one for the albinos. But for the visually impaired, the Inclusive Friends, which is the civil society organization that represents the interests not just of the visually impaired, but other categories of physically challenged persons as well. There was a suggestion that we should deploy a Braille guide in the election. It's a simple jacket that gives the acronyms of political parties in Braille, into which the normal regular ballot paper will be slipped into the jacket, and those who can read Braille can actually identify the logos of the parties of their choice. And there is a perforation by the side that they can now thumbprint into the box of that party and edit. But for those who cannot read Braille, the standard procedure will apply, that you come with a trusted person who will help you to make your choice. So that is what we have done for the visually impaired. Then the deaf also approached the commission to say that, yes, some of them can see, but they can't hear. But there are symbols and characters that can be read by them, similar to the Braille for the visually impaired, and asked what we can do to help, particularly in the area of voter education for them. We have done so. We designed and produced a special poster that can be read by the deaf. This we have deployed for the purpose of voter education and publicity during elections. But I know that those on wheelchairs have also requested that we should create ramps at the polling units to allow for easy access. Now this one is a lot more difficult for the commission to do because voting is going to take place in 120,000, roughly 120,000 polling units and additional voting points. And none of these facilities is owned by INEC. They are basically public facilities, or there are no public facilities. They are called open space. We have no problem with the open space because there are no verandas and steps and elevations. So we will, after the 2019 general elections, liaise with the owners of these facilities, essentially state governments, state and local governments, to see if they can construct, in particularly schools, ramps that can be used not just by INEC once every 4 years or as the need arises, but as a matter of course to take care of persons with disabilities generally. Then for other categories of the physically challenged, we have separate queues, provision for separate queues. This is only commonsensical. Any person with disability who comes to vote is given accorded preference. You don't have to queue to vote. It also applies to pregnant mothers, pregnant women, lactating mothers, and the elderly. That provision is also made. But we said pregnant, in the guidelines, we qualify the pregnancy, we said visibly pregnant. This is an important qualification for us, for those who are visibly pregnant. I hope that answered the question from Plus TV. Then I didn't quite get the name, but I jotted the question asked by someone that a candidate is suing the commission over the failure to prosecute some of the candidates who, in his own assessment, have already exceeded the spending limit prescribed by law. Well, I must say that we have not been served. If we are served, we will study the court papers and then see what we do thereafter. But it's very interesting that someone has already determined that some of the candidates have overspent. So we are waiting. If once we are served, the commission will look into the court papers and take a decision accordingly. NYSC is a condition of youth corpers, sleeping rough and on the floor, is very, very disturbing to the commission. Let me say that the youth corps members are among the most educated, most reliable, most patriotic, and most readily available election duty staff we have in Nigeria. They are graduates or HND holders. They are very easy to train for that reason. They are doing the youth service. They have addresses. If there are complaints, you can deal with infractions for that reason. And so we don't joke with the welfare of youth corps members. Interestingly, after the media briefing yesterday, the DG NYSC called me. And in addition to the arrangements we have made for the convenience of ad hoc staff at the super racks where they stay the night on Friday, before deploying to the polling units, meaning that where there is no water, we provide water, big tanks. We provide rubber buckets and plastics and toiletries. We provide power so that they can recharge the smart card readers and also seize the opportunity to revise the manuals, the training manuals for the election. We need to take care of the comfort of the youth corps members. So arising from my interaction with the DG NYC yesterday, they are looking at how they can mobilize mattresses used by the youth corps members in camps during their period of stay in camps, so that we can move as many of these mattresses as possible to places where the youth corps members are going to stay the night, so that layover before we open the polling units on Saturday can be more comfortable for them. I'm waiting for the DG NYC to submit the details to the commission. But I want to assure you that anything that the commission can do to make the corps members comfortable and all other staff, including their welfare and security, will do so. We ensure a percentage of election duty staff. So in the event of perils or accident, there is a cushion that we can help. And also those who do exceptionally well during elections are accorded automatic employment by the Commission. We'll continue to improve on the welfare of corps members during elections and do whatever we can to protect them in the course of election duty. Another area where we have worked with the security agencies to help the youth corps members is protection to the corpus lodges. In the past, when they deployed for election duty, some hoodlums raided the corpus lodges and stole their personal effects. So while we have corpus lodges, we have worked with the security agencies to ensure that security is provided so that nothing happens to their personal belongings while they are away on national service. Yaga Samson, any report of missing sensitive materials? Yes, we have received reports here and there, but they are small and far between. In fact, we are working to immediately respond to this, including the state that you mentioned for the senatorial district. But it's only one form, the EC8D1. We have compiled those, and we are going to respond. All materials will be made available to the states where these materials are needed before the election on Saturday. Thank you very much. I hope I've answered all the questions as best I can.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Chairman. It appears there are quite a number of hands still up, so there's still some questions to be answered. Let me start from number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that'll be it. So number 1, please.
My name is Komla Kluchi. I work with TV3 in Ghana. The APC and the PDP, most especially, have launched scathing accusations at the INEC. For instance, yesterday at the PDP conference, they indicated that INEC has the intention of smuggling in some 1 million thumb-printed ballot papers. What does INEC make of all these accusations from the two leading parties?
Thank you. Number 2.
Yep. My name is Taiwo Amodu. I report for Nigerian Tribune. Sir, may we have an update on the fate of APC in Rivers State? We learned that the party's lawyers have written INEC demanding that APC should be included on the ballot on Saturday. Thank you.
Number 3.
Yeah. My name is Jide Oyekunle, Daily Independent newspaper. Sir, I want to know, how far have you gone in making materials available to the riverine area? Particularly because we understand that some of your officers will be traveling nothing less than 5-6 hours on the water before they get to the location at the riverine area. So I want to know how far you have gone in making materials available to all these areas, considering the terrain as well as the safety of your officials. Number 2, there are some polling units that have been moved away from their location without the knowledge of the voters. For example, in Lugbe, here in Abuja, there are some polling units that have been moved. They have been relocated from their initial location. So, and the voters, they are not aware of this. Thank you.
Number 4, please.
My name is Emeka Nze. Honorable Chairman, my question is very simple. I want to find out, sir, whether INEC is working under some kind of pressure, and by who, sir?
I think.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Femi Akonde. I'm a reporter with TVC News. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, there are so many innuendos out there forming talking points among Nigerians, and one of such is that some persons, politicians and political parties have brought in sophisticated technology to infiltrate INEC's ICT department. So my question now is, how tamper-proof is your ICT department against such kind of attacks?
Number 6, please.
Hi, I'm Paul Carston with Reuters News. When does INEC expect to announce the winner of the elections? Presidential. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 7.
Chairman, my name is Jonathan Ipa. I labor for Al Jazeera News here in Nigeria. We are interested in knowing, apart from the daily briefings you are doing, on the level of preparations, there is this general apathy among Nigerians, particularly those who travel and came back, those who might not afford to go back, and with the recent comment coming from the major graduates as regard to their safety.
Okay, last one. Wait.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Chairman, please. My name is Charles Ode. I work for Kaftan TV. I remember quite clearly, sometime in December 2018, the Commission signed an MOU with transportation unions to cater for the issue of logistics. So I want to know how far the Commission has gone with the arrangements with the issue of logistics with transport
unions. Thank you.
Unions, yeah. So that it doesn't become a problem, because logistics was the problem you said prevented the elections from holding. So I want to know how far.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, we'll come to the end of this second round. So I'll appeal to the chairman to please answer those 8 questions. Let me appeal to my colleagues in the media to please, once you set your tripod, you set your cameras, can you please descend, because people behind cannot see and you're obstructing people's views and eye contacts. Please, appeal to you. Honorable Chairman, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for all the questions. Our brother from Ghana, TV3 Ghana, that political parties have accused the Commission equally. Let me say that for us as election managers, this is normal. We sometimes get a little concerned if it's only one party that is accusing the Commission rather than the other. But if the 2 parties accuse the Commission equally, it means that obviously that is something the Commission is doing that is right. But I'm sure you will know from your experience in Ghana and covering elections elsewhere that for some political parties, the major issue is usually the Electoral Commission. But we have said consistently that while, yes, we are happy to be criticized, but we should not be seen as another political party. We are not a political party. The Commission has no candidates in the election. We are only interested in the processes. So it's normal, I will say, for the Commission to be criticized by different political parties. The next question is APC in Rivers. I think the Supreme Court has made a number of pronouncements on that matter. And for that reason, the Commission has taken the decision going by the judgments of the Supreme Court. Under our Constitution, the Supreme Court is the last court of resort for any citizen. There must be an end to litigation, as lawyers say. And once the Supreme Court makes a pronouncement, all persons and authorities in the Federation of Nigeria are bound to obey the judgment of the Supreme Court. And so the Commission, as a law-abiding institution, will always abide by the judgments of courts. So that's my answer to your question on Rivers. There is nowhere else to go. We'll go by the judgment of all courts, but when it is the apex court, that is the end of the road for all litigations. The independent newspaper, materials available, how do we make materials available to the riverine areas? It's a very good question because we have these riverine areas in a number of states. Delta, Rivers, the Ilaje part of Ondo, and Bayelsa. But maybe the best example, the best illustration of this is Bayelsa, where you have the majority of the local governments in the state actually riverine. 5 out of the 8 local governments in Bayelsa state are only accessible by sea. We understand what you are talking about. We have experience of having conducted elections in Bayelsa. I know the considerable distance, for instance, between Enugu, the state capital, and Oporoma, the capital of southern Ijo. You spend literally hours on the high seas. We also appreciate the challenge that security poses, particularly when you have personnel and materials on the high seas. It is for that reason that we have always made arrangements with the police and sometimes with the Navy and the Army as well to provide gunboats in addition to the boats that carry our personnel and materials to locations. So we have been conducting elections in these places. We had a discussion with all the resident electoral commissioners. We have made a specific arrangement for the riverine areas where they have to hire the boats, and the Marine Police, the Navy, and the Army will also provide some protection from a distance for personnel of the Commission. So we're not taking the issue of transportation lightly, and we're not also taking the issue of security lightly. Now, I think related to that question is, what arrangements are we making to ensure that we deploy to these areas in good time? Our office in Bayelsa must have finished the batching of materials. We said deployment to the local governments will be today, and I've listed 10 states that have moved materials to the local governments today. Bayelsa is not one of them, but I believe at first light tomorrow they will deploy. And the strategy always is to deploy to places where you need some extra time, like Oproma in southern Ijo, and where you can cut the distance of moving the materials by sea, like in Ekeremo, then you can go through Delta to get to Ekeremo. We'll also deploy, as we very well know, to Brass, and the same thing will apply to Ilaje in Ondo. We have made elaborate arrangement with the boat owners, and we have also made arrangement for the safety and security of the security forces that will accompany our personnel and materials to these locations. As I said, we have experience of conducting elections in these areas, and deployment shouldn't be a problem, but we have to start early. I absolutely agree. Because even if we get to Oproma in southern Ijo, for instance, you then have to deploy to polling units by boats. It's not that everybody lives in the capital of the local government. I hope that answers your question. Next, you said PUs were relocated without the knowledge of voters, and you specifically mentioned a polling unit in Lugbe. I would like to have further information on that particular polling unit that you said was moved in Lugbe without consultation or knowledge, consultation with or knowledge of the voters. I know that some PUs were relocated for a reason. There were states, for instance, when they were created, private properties were rented to state governments and converted into public buildings, and some of them serve as polling units. But later, when the state governments constructed their secretariats and other facilities, these properties reverted to private use, and the polling units were located in those private buildings. We have relocated them in full consultation with the stakeholders. So that one I know that we have done, but we consulted the stakeholders so they know the new location of the polling units. No polling unit is relocated without consultation with the voters, and no polling unit is relocated for no just reason. The whole idea is to move our polling units away from shrines and public buildings and palaces. Polling units should be in public buildings. Where there are no public buildings, we erect canopies and call them open space. We are committed to this process. But I will be very happy to have the details of the polling unit in Lugbe so that we can immediately investigate. Then Emeka Nze, is INEC under pressure and by who? INEC is not under pressure. So the second part of your question becomes redundant. Thank you. Akonde, TVC News, that there are innuendos that sophisticated technology is being deployed to attack ICT facilities. Well, if that is the case, then actually it goes beyond innuendos. It's a very serious matter for us. But I want to assure you that much of our IT facilities will be offline. And it's almost impossible. It's impossible to attack something that is offline. You only attack something that is online, because it's not seen online, you can't attack. So much of it is actually offline. So, but I've taken note of what you have said. We will continue to strengthen security around our IT facilities, but at the moment, we have no reason to really panic about any possibility of attack or compromise to our ICT facilities. When you talked about innuendos, I thought you were going to say the kind of thing that a friend told me yesterday. Was it over the weekend? There was a headline in one of the newspapers saying that the INEC chairman has stepped down. But when you read the story, they said, I stepped down from my car. So, then there was a question asked about when to expect the results of the election. I said so before. Let me also repeat here that even though this time around we have more presidential candidates than 2015, we have more registered voters than we had in 2015. The size of the result sheet is bigger than we had in 2015, but we are committed to concluding the process for the presidential election roughly around the same time that we concluded the 2015 general elections. I understand that there is greater urgency, particularly following the extension, and particularly for those who are covering the elections, so that they don't extend their stay longer for the outcome of the elections. We will do whatever we can to ensure that we speedily conclude the elections, consistent with the provisions of the law. We will not sacrifice due process for speed or on the altar of speed, but we will make sure that we balance speed and what we are supposed to do under the law. Jonathan, Al Jazeera, general apathy. We hope that with the resumption of campaigns by political parties, people will be remobilized for the election. But as we have said, painful as it is for the Commission to have postponed the election by a week, we'll still appeal to voters to please come out en masse and vote for the party of their choice. And I believe that people like you, Jonathan, in Al Jazeera, will also be helpful in further informing and mobilizing citizens to come out and vote. Then Charles from Kaftan TV, you talked about the memorandum of understanding signed between the Commission and the road transport unions. Yes, we have signed the memorandum of understanding. In fact, on our way to this meeting, I called the president of the National Union of Road Transport Workers to further review the arrangements we have made, the MOU signed and the agreements that the Commission signed at state level with the providers of transport for electoral logistics. We are confident that we have no problem in this regard at all. In fact, I have a meeting with him tomorrow in the morning, the president of the National Union of Road Transport Workers, for a further review. He just concluded a meeting with all the chairmen of the branches of the union nationwide, and I assured that we are on course. We are happy with the document we signed, and we're also happy with the arrangements that the union has entered with the Commission at state level. I hope I've responded to all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think, Honorable Chairman, with that, we spent 1 hour here already. I think that we are busy, you are busy. Well, pardon us if we couldn't take your question today, but we'll be here same time tomorrow. We look forward to seeing all of you there. So on behalf of the Commission, I'd like to say a big thank you for honoring our invitation to be here. Thank you so much.
and welcome to Nationwide on the network service of the NTA. We thank you for joining us. I am Lydia Odije Ochi. We start today with an update on activities of the Independent National Electoral Commission regarding the rescheduled February 16th election. Our correspondent, Mie Ogidi, is on standby at the International Conference Center. Mie, what is the latest from INEC this afternoon?
Thank you, Lydia. We are here at the International Conference Center, Abuja, the venue for the daily briefings by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. It will be recalled that when the INEC chairman briefed the media on Saturday, 16th of February 2019, after the postponement of the elections by a week ahead, he came up with a 6-point agenda. And the first agenda was deployment of materials, election materials, back to the central banks in the respective states. 2 was the configuration of the smart card readers. And 3rd was the deployment of sensitive materials. And of course, yesterday he briefed Nigerians that all the materials, that is the non-sensitive materials, redeployed back to the central bank, and configuration was at 95%. And today, gladly, all the smart card readers, that is about 180,000, been reconfigured. So, according to him, we are good to go in that respect. And today, following the agenda, the 6-point agenda, today, as promised, sensitive materials deployment has commenced. The 4th one is training for the refresher training, and probably that is what we're going to look at tomorrow. But critical issues were also raised by the audience, for instance, litigations. And the chairman assured Nigerians that the commission is law-abiding. For instance, the issue of APC in Rivers State, he said the Supreme Court judgment stands. And that of campaign funding, let me take you back to the Electoral Act of 2010 as amended. Section 91 of that act states that a presidential campaign should not be more than 1 billion naira, governorship 200 million, and National Assembly 100 million. And someone has allegedly taken the commission to the court. But however, the chairman of the commission, that is INEC, says they have not received any notice. So that will not for now have any effect on the arrangements ahead of the Saturday elections. And he also talked about the welfare of coppers. It has been on the social media where people were displaying pictures of coppers sleeping on bare floors or grounds. But according to himself and another agency, that is the National Youth Service Corps, the DG of that agency, they have met, and positive assurances they're out for the ad hoc staff. And he also talked about a word of advice to the candidates to always maintain peace and avoid statements that will going to, cause unnecessary unrest in the land. So that is the situation for now at the International Conference Center, and we hope to see such tomorrow by 3 p.m. But let me close this interaction with you, Lydia, by quoting the words of the chairman. He said, "We will not compromise due process with speed," and that means a lot. It means due process must be followed to ensure that the elections are free, fair, and credible to the admiration of all Nigerians, Africans, and the world at large. That is it. And Lydia, I take it back to you.
Many thanks, Mie, for that update. That's Mie Ogidi reporting live from the International Conference Center on INEC's preparedness for the forthcoming elections on Saturday. Moving on now. Foreign Affairs Minister Geoffrey Onyama has met heads of diplomatic missions and international organizations accredited to Nigeria for an interaction on the rescheduled presidential and National Assembly elections. The minister assured the world that the Buhari administration remains committed to elections that will meet international standards. Foreign Desk correspondent Makut Simon Macham reports.
Nigeria's elections are significant not only for Nigerians, but for the world at large, primarily because of the place the country occupies in the international community. This is why, ahead of the rescheduled presidential and National Assembly elections this Saturday, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyama, convened an interactive session with heads of diplomatic missions and international organizations accredited to Nigeria to give them an update on the elections. He is joined by the Acting Inspector General of Police, Muhammad Adamu, and INEC Chairman, who is represented by National Commissioner, Dr. Mustafa Leki. The minister expressed government's disappointment over the rescheduling of the elections, but assured the international community that the Buhari administration remains committed to a process that will produce free, fair, and credible outcome.
Most importantly, Mr. President and all Nigerians absolutely demand that on Saturday, elections should be held. And we cannot accept, and we will not accept, any excuses or any other reason. They have to be held on Saturday, and nothing less will be acceptable to government, and indeed I'm sure to Nigerians.
For INEC and the police, the interaction provided another opportunity to respond to some concerns raised by the diplomats and the media on the state of readiness for Saturday's rescheduled elections.
We have no reason to feel that anything will go wrong. We've received all the materials. They have been checked, audited. People have been informed, deployed by Friday to Iraq. An election will definitely happen on Saturday morning.
We are going to be professional. We are going to be impartial, and we create a enabling environment for all the political parties.
Permanent Secretary at the Foreign Affairs Ministry, Ambassador Mustafa Suleiman, assured the diplomats that the ministry is available to provide any window required for engagement on the elections. The heads of mission accredited to Nigeria might be leaving the Ministry of Foreign Affairs better informed on the preparations for the rescheduled elections come Saturday. However, they have indicated through the interaction that they will continue to monitor the process even after the votes are counted. From the Foreign Affairs Headquarters in Abuja, Makut Simon Macham, NTA News.
Thanks, Makut. Nigeria must take advantage of its diversity as a strength by living together in peace, irrespective of religious and ethnic differences, especially as they prepare to vote in the general elections. United Arab Emirates Ambassador to Nigeria, Fahad Mohammed Obaid Al-Tafaq, said this when he visited the Catholic Archbishop of Abuja Diocese, John Cardinal Onayekon in Abuja. Adebola Brooklyn Sunday has that.
Nigeria, like the United Arab Emirates, has two major religions, Christianity and Islam. The ambassador is in the Catholic Pro Cathedral to strengthen the bond between his country and Nigeria.
Dialogue.
Ambassador Fahad Mohammed Ubaid Al-Tafaq said religious tolerance is the key to peaceful coexistence, which will in turn translate into national development, and that the United Arab Emirates has declared 2019 the year of religious tolerance.
We know that the Nigerian people are full of hope, they are full of determination, and they would like to see a prosperous and bright future.
We should go beyond tolerance to mutual acceptance and mutual respect.
And on the fight against corruption, the diplomat affirmed that his country has ratified agreement with Nigeria, which was facilitated by President Muhammadu Buhari in 2016.
They are legally binding, and we are considering Nigeria as a friend, as a colleague, and we will definitely be always cooperating.
He also urged Nigerians to conduct themselves peacefully during and after the 2019 general elections.
We hope that the elections are fair, credible, and safe for Nigerians because they deserve a bright future and they deserve good elections.
Have a good reason for voting for whomever you are voting. And after voting, be gentle.
The United Arab Emirates has about 70 worship places and calls the country a land of God where religion are practiced freely. These analysts believe has helped them to turn deserts to a polished garden. Adebola Brooklyn Sunday, NTA News.
Discussants on NTA's Current Affairs program, Tuesday Live, have lent their voice to the call on Nigerians to have faith in the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in conducting free, fair and credible elections despite the postponement of the February 16th and March 2nd, 2019 general elections. Talatu Ezirike reports.
Nigeria's political arena is believed to be an interesting one, with political parties campaigning for the votes of more than 84 million registered voters. All eyes were on the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, set out date of 16 February for the Presidential and National Assembly, while 2nd March was for the governorship, state assemblies and local government elections. However, for reasons largely due to logistics in delivering of electoral materials, INEC shifted the election by 1 week. The move, which naturally attracted reactions from many quarters, is being tackled. Analysts say INEC is working in the best interest of conducting free, fair and credible elections.
Other sections of the country will be voting and others will not be voting. And then, of course, you have politicians in Nigeria that say, no, it's because of somebody is being favored to rig the election. I am more concerned with the peace and non-violence of the election.
INEC budget is over 200 billion for this election. This money is enough to run about 5 African nations, and they will be kicking very well. So why?
For others, the need to build strong electoral system, which President Muhammadu Buhari defends, in order to avoid electoral fraud.
The president's warning is long overdue. And what we should take out of this is first, it is not to begin to interpret what the president said, but to ensure when you snatch a ballot box, you kill a nation.
Anybody that is playing to snatch the ballot box is a very high criminal offense. That person should be dealt with. It's not going to be business as usual.
It is generally agreed that political actors should rise above selfish interests and pursue national interests through right actions for overall growth. Talatu Ezirike, NTA News.
More on the forthcoming election. Bauchi Independent National Electoral Commissioner has returned smart card readers and other sensitive materials to the Central Bank of Nigeria for safekeep. Head of Voter Education Ahmed Waziri confirmed this in an interview with NTA News. Bulak Afsa completes the story.
Independent National Electoral Commission said they have reconfigured all the smart cards for the 5,422 voting points, with 26,209 uncollected permanent voters' cards returned to the Central Bank of Nigeria.
We don't have such a problem of retrieval of sensitive material from the local government, as all our sensitive materials are under the custody of the Central Bank of Nigeria. And with regard to the issue of reconfiguration of the card readers, we have already reconfigured all the card readers that are to be used in the 5,422 voting points in Bauchi State.
The head of voter education and publicity, Ahmed Waziri, stresses that the commission will commence distribution of sensitive materials on 20th and 21st of February to local governments for onward distribution to wards. He advised voters to be hopeful and come out to exercise their franchise on 23rd of February 2019. In Bauchi, Bulak Afsa, NTA News.
It's now time to join Elizabeth in our Lagos Network Center for more stories on Nationwide. Elizabeth, good to see you.
Nice to see you too, Lydia, and thanks for joining us in the mega city of Lagos. The reconstruction works on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway has attained a 35% project completion rate, following additional works by the federal government last year. Dotun Owuyemi, who is monitoring the progress on the road, reports that while motorists are experiencing less traffic, there's a need for caution on the part of road users, especially along construction areas.
Every day, progress is being made, and everyone who drives along the corridors of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway will attest to the fact that earth-moving equipment and men are always busy. It would be recalled that on the 18th of December 2018, several construction areas on the road were opened to traffic for the Yuletide, suspending constructions. However, since January, the contractors have resumed work, creating several diversions like this one at kilometer 15. Giving us a brief of the project layout, design and level of completion, the Federal Controller of Works in Lagos, Adedamola Kuti, says additional works on the road will include a toll plaza, pedestrian bridges, flyovers and weighbridge.
Most of the sections that were not completed before we left during the Christmas season, a good number of them, we have now completed them and opened them completely to traffic. Presently, we are walking around the MFM area, about kilometer 15, and another section we opened up is around Redeem area, around kilometer 26. But in between them, all the sections that were completed early this year have been open to the public.
The completion of the road is a priority of the federal government.
In Lagos, Dotun Ogunyemi, NTA News.
The Nigerian Navy has intercepted a Cotonou boat laden with petroleum products put at 20,075,000 naira. The executive officer at NSB Croft, Captain Paul Dogara, disclosed this to newsmen in Lagos. Lynn Leneke has details.
The Cotonou boat was intercepted at Akaraba seaside area of Atlas Cove. It was laden with 1,500 jerrycans of 25 liters of suspected PMS, 27 empty drums, and 5 pieces of 75 horsepower outboard engines. The intercepted PMS of 35 liters is valued at about 5,075,000 naira, while the Cotonou boat and the outboard engines value is put at about 15 million naira.
This latest arrest by the base represents a very important achievement of our constitutional mandate and a setback to the criminals, because you can see we have been able to deprive them of the use of this boat and the outboard engine, which is a very big loss to them.
The executive officer at NSB Croft explained that the service is not relenting in ensuring zero tolerance to acts of illegalities in the maritime domain.
These criminals, no matter where they are, no matter whatever they do, the Navy will always be a step ahead of them and will get them.
The Navy says it's still investigating the matter, while the manhunt for the culprits is ongoing. In Lagos, Lynn Lenake, NTA News.
Academic activities have resumed in public universities as students and lecturers say they are fully ready for the second semester challenge. Jane Ujuku reports.
Students swarming all over the University of Lagos campus as academic activities resume in earnest. Some were seen receiving lectures. Some of the students expressed readiness to tackle the semester challenge.
I can't wait to experience what it takes to be back in school.
But then resuming now and the stress, because obviously we are behind schedule, far behind schedule, so but then it's still enjoyable.
With the few lectures we've had, it's been really wonderful. The lecturers are really free with us and very accommodating, nice.
The school management react on measures put in place to make up for the lost time.
The University of Lagos has resumed activities, and I'm glad to say that academic activities have fully resumed. The scheduled time or the scheduled dates have been affected by the strike. And right now, as I speak, we have a revised academic calendar for this session.
The Lagos State University had commenced lectures just a few days after the suspension of the Academic Staff Union of University, ASU's strike.
We had to revise the calendar for the session, and by that calendar, the university commenced academic activities on the 12th, February.
Some of the students expressed hope that the lectures will be credible and smooth so as not to alter the already adjusted school calendar. In Lagos, Jane Ujuku, NTA News.
And those are the reports from Lagos at this hour. Lydia has more on Nationwide.
Many thanks, Elizabeth. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, has directed officers whose loyalty is in doubt to resign within 3 days. The Army Chief gave the directive while addressing officers at a meeting preparatory to the February 23rd rescheduled 2019 elections. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa has more.
These are principal officers and commanders at an expanded critical meeting to appraise security measures in place for the rescheduled 2019 elections.
The unity of Nigeria.
The Army Chief directed commanders to maintain a proactive posture and conduct regular patrol to tackle any election crime, in view of the recent reactions from members of the society.
Should any officer or soldier have doubts as to his loyalty to the Nigerian state as presently constituted, such a person has up to the 22nd of this month to resign. There is no room for indiscipline or disobedience to lawful orders in the Nigerian Army today.
While the Army remains apolitical and professional, General Buratai advised politicians not to smear the integrity of the formation.
Direct and public incitement of the Nigerian military against democracy and constituted authority will not be tolerated. I request such persons that make such statements to withdraw these inciting statements.
Commanders are to key into the election situation room for prompt delivery of security reports of their areas of responsibility. The Army Chief also commended President Muhammadu Buhari for its unflinching support to the fighting formation towards achieving its constitutional mandate. From the Nigerian Army headquarters in Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
The Minister of Communications, Adebayo Shitu, has urged Nigerians to come out en masse and re-elect President Muhammadu Buhari to consolidate on his antecedents of addressing key challenges facing the nation. The minister, in an exclusive interview with NTA News on a wide range of issues, said the foundation for Nigeria's development have been laid by President Buhari in his first tenure and needs the second term to build on.
They are better off under a Buhari administration because everybody trusts that Buhari will not steal the commonwealth of this country and will not allow anybody to steal any sort of thing. This coming election, every participant, every stakeholder will be more vigilant, and I think the security forces would also be very vigilant. And I'm happy also that Mr. President has given the appropriate instructions to security forces to be vigilant to ensure that nobody compromises the integrity of next Saturday's election.
To exercise their franchise and not be discouraged by INEC's postponement of the earlier scheduled date for the elections. The re-election bid of President Muhammadu Buhari and Vice President Yemi Osinbajo continues to enjoy the endorsement of Nigerians across religious divide. An interfaith forum comprising various sects of Christian and Muslim faithful converged at the State House Abuja for a town hall meeting to express solidarity with the President Muhammadu Buhari and his administration for the quality and purposeful leadership to the nation.
Town hall meeting comprising members of the Christian and Muslim faithful and other faith-based organizations attended the Interfaith Forum, where they expressed solidarity with the leadership style of President Muhammadu Buhari and also canvassed support for their re-election to continue with the good work they have started in the area of security infrastructure, fighting corruption, agricultural revolution, and provision of social infrastructure. Leaders of both Tijaniya, Shia, Izala, and other Islamic sects were unanimous in their endorsement of the president's second-term bid.
We've also sought to put the Nigerian economy back to the path of sustainable growth through diversification and fiscal discipline.
Nigeria has reduced significantly the percentage of import in areas of maize. Those that used to sell maize or to export their maize into Nigeria will ever be happy with us. We have come to a time where we must project Nigeria in its glory, not in its rags.
The president, represented by the secretary to the government of the federation, Boss Gida Mustafa, commended the role being played by religious leaders, whom he described as conscience of the nation.
The road to greater prosperity for Nigeria may be long and rough, but you are sure of a leadership that will not sacrifice the future well-being of Nigerians for any personal or material
Special prayers were offered by 2 clerics for the peaceful conduct of the 2019 general elections and the success of President Muhammadu Buhari at the polls. In Abuja, Francis Form, NTA News.
As political activities climax towards elections, ballot box snatching, a trending but worrisome phenomenon negating the mandate of the electorate, has continued to dominate national discourse. Correspondent Ahmed Ondas Ahmed interacted with some Nigerians on their perception of the crime within the Electoral Act and what punitive measures are good enough to curtail the menace as Nigeria prepares for yet another general elections from Saturday.
Is an electoral offense, so it definitely is not good. It's not good in any way. So, if I'm to connect that to what Mr. President said 2 days ago at their meeting, one thing Mr. President has done is to raise the awareness of citizens around the electoral offense of ballot snatching. So people are already aware, and I guess the security agencies will be on the lookout for people that want to get involved in electoral offense like ballot snatching. But
the ballot box is a confusionist, it's a thief, it's a destroyer, it's a scatterer. The punishment I would design for anybody who snatches the ballot box is the punishment that I will met on anybody, any man I meet on top of my wife in my bedroom. Anything that happens to that man can equally happen to a ballot box snatcher.
Complaining that the country is not good. So you snatching the ballot box now, and it doesn't give us the right and it doesn't give us the opportunity to choose the right person. So I just left to me, I know it's not good at all. It's more or less stealing. And we all know that it's not just cool. So what do you think?
Of course, it's one of the worst things that could happen during an election for someone to snatch a ballot box. And as a result, you have heard the conversation that is going around concerning such activity. You understand? It's even a crime to snatch a ballot box. So it's a very wrong thing to do because snatching a ballot box is snatching the mandate of the Nigerian people. Yes.
The people who are snatching ballot boxes is a sign of inordinate ambition to people who might have sent them for that purpose. And to me, anybody found snatching boxes, the law will catch up at that person.
Snatching is a very bad thing to do. It's put our electoral process in disrepute, and I don't believe any well-meaning Nigerian should engage in it. Yeah, it's not good.
So what do you think?
You're still watching Nationwide. We now pause to bring you some messages. Don't go away.
The UN compound houses about 400 employees.
The Nigerian capital Abuja is still reeling from Monday morning's rush hour bomb.
If the group did carry out the attack, it would be one of its worst.
2 suicide bombings in Nigeria. One targeted a convoy carrying Nigeria's main opposition leader.
Gun attack on the central mosque in North Nigeria's biggest city, Kano.
21 people have died in a large explosion at the Banix Plaza shopping centre in the capital, Abuja.
Islamist extremists brought Christmas carnage to churches across Nigeria.
Nigeria, land of great people. The general elections are here again. Exercise your civic responsibility. The Christian Council of Nigeria is calling Nigerians of voting age to participate actively in the electoral process. Your vote is your power. It's your right. Yes, your vote counts. Shun tribal, religious and ethnic sentiments. Support politics without violence. It's one person, one vote. Let us conduct ourselves orderly during and after the elections. Don't be used as a political thug. Together, we can make Nigeria greater. This message is powered by the Christian Council of Nigeria, CCN.
I have seen these young Africans prosper, from some who didn't even know what to do with their lives until they got the $5,000 seed capital from Tony Elumelu Foundation, and the mentorship and the training. That gladdens my heart.
I saw this ad about the Tony Elumelu Foundation. I applied. That was the pivotal moment.
Africa Fashion Week London just came after I participated in the Tony Elumelu Foundation entrepreneurship programs.
Tony Elumelu, grâce à sa fondation, permet de donner une boussole à tous les entrepreneurs de cette fondation.
Our role is not only to empower young Africans directly. We should be a voice, advocate, catalyst for economic empowerment of Africa.
The future of Africa is in your hands.
Become a Tony Elumelu entrepreneur. Apply now.
Are you that electorate who collects money from political party A, political party B, and political party C, and then promise all of them under oath to vote for them on the day of elections? Hear this. If you sell your vote and then go on to vote for more than one political party or candidate, your vote shall be declared null and void. Your vote will not count. You will have lost an opportunity to vote a good leader because you sold your vote. Are you a politician who goes round buying votes? Hear this. The money you spend buying votes may not count. The electorate who is selling his vote to you may have sold same vote to other parties and candidates. Stop buying votes. Stop selling votes. Let's join hands to make our elections credible. Your vote is your power. Use it to build a great nation. This message is from the National Orientation Agency.
We, the Nigerian youth, have resolved to stand with you, Baba, in the next level. We recognize your commitment to create jobs and empower the youth. Your strategic policies in the agri-sector has not only increased gainful employment and boosted production, but also saved the nation billions of dollars in foreign exchange. We are benefiting from your deployment of infrastructure across the country. With Abuja, Kaduna, and Lagos-Abeokuta rail lines completed, Itape-Ajaokuta-Warri rail line will soon be completed, while Lagos-Kano rail line is under construction. Additional 1,531 kilometers of roads have been completed and over 1,000 kilometers rehabilitated across the country. The second Niger bridge is on the way through Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund. Hydropower plants in Mambila, Zungeru, and many other power projects are under construction to add value to the improved power generation, transmission, and distribution in the country. Brokering and sustaining peace in the Niger Delta has helped stabilize the economy, thereby increasing investment in the oil and gas sector. We are coming with you to the next level to see the Empower scheme increase to 1.5 million beneficiaries and full implementation of the 10 billion Naira Youth Entrepreneurship Project. Nigerian youth, let's connect to the next level. This message is powered by Dr. Tony Uoye, Director, Youth Mobilization, APC Presidential Campaign Council.
Thanks for staying. Farmers across the country are mobilizing their members to come out en masse and vote President Muhammadu Buhari despite the shift in the election by INEC to Saturday, February 23rd. This follows the endorsement of President Buhari as unanimous candidate by rice and maize farmers associations, comprising about 20 million members. Musa Baba Aliyu has the details.
There are 12.2 million registered rice farmers in Nigeria, currently benefiting from the federal government Rice Revolution program. The group, apart from adopting President Muhammadu Buhari as its presidential candidate, it's also mobilizing other farmers to see the need for continuity in the agricultural revolution that has lifted the socioeconomic status of farmers. The group believes that the re-election of the president will ensure Nigeria's self-sufficiency in food production.
This present administration has been supporting rice production or general agricultural production in Nigeria. It's not only about rice, it's about virtually all the commodities in the country.
Maize farmers, on the other hand, are mobilizing 5 million votes for President Muhammadu Buhari. Bello Abubakar Funtua is the president of the association. He is optimistic that the re-election of President Muhammadu Buhari would move the nation from over-dependence on crude oil.
Today, we are here to express all the progress and the achievements that we have gone so far under this present administration and to show our total pledged support for the coming election 2019. That is our total support to President Muhammadu Buhari.
Mieti Allah Cattle Breeders Association is another group canvassing more votes for President Muhammadu Buhari. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
More on politics. The African Action Congress, AAC, says it will use the extended campaign period to reach out to more supporters before the rescheduled presidential and National Assembly elections. John Yaku has more.
Political campaigns for the April 16th presidential and National Assembly elections came to an end on the 14th of February, in line with the provisions of the Electoral Act. However, the postponement of the elections led the Independent National Electoral Commission to reconsider its position on election campaigns. With the nod from the Independent National Electoral Commission, political parties have again moved into the field to garner more support for its candidates. At the African Action Congress office, located at number 1 Q Road, Ulugbe, few secretarial staff were still maintaining the office. I am standing here with the National Secretary of the African Action Congress, AAC, Dr. Leonard Nzenwa. Of what significance is this extension of political party campaign to your party?
We're going to use this period, this lacuna, to see how we can deepen our effort in campaigning. We'll keep on using both the traditional medium, which we are using one-on-one engagement with the people, and trying to also counsel the people to come out, because now people are a little bit very uncomfortable with the situation of things. There's going to be the economic side, there's going to be the security aspect, there's also going to be other factors that have been put in place for it. But what we're saying essentially, the significance is that now Nigerians must know that it is very, very incumbent on their part to come out and vote.
With this development, it is expected that political campaigns will end midnight 21st February. In Abuja, John Yaku, NTA News.
A former governor of Ondo State and candidate of the Zenith Labour Party in the Ondo Central Senatorial election, Dr. Olusegun Mimico, has promised to canvass for legislation against vote buying in Nigeria and attract more infrastructure to his senatorial district if elected. Dr. Mimico made the promise at a mega rally to wrap up his campaign in the ancient town of Ondo. Doris Olumoko reports.
The Zenith Labour Party's senatorial campaign for Ondo Central paralyzed commercial activities in Ondo town as the people trooped out in their numbers to register their love and support for the candidacy of Dr. Olusegun Mimico.
Mimico really did the thing that I will used to praise him in Ondo town.
He paid for my WAEC examinations. I even enjoyed free shuttle bus for students.
Dr. Mimico, while soliciting votes from the people of the entire Ondo Central Senatorial District, promised that if elected, he will perform better to beat his achievements as governor.
Praise the Lord!
He therefore urged electorates to shun vote buying and vote for all candidates of the Zenith Labour Party. In Ondo, Doris Olumoko, NTA News.
From Thursday, February 21st, 2019 to Monday, the 25th, eligible voters willing to travel to their respective localities to vote will now have to pay only half the cost of the transportation fare. This 50% reduction in transportation fare is the contribution of the National Union of Road Transport Workers towards a successful election. The decision by the leadership of the union is in respect to the postponement of the presidential and National Assembly elections rescheduled for Saturday this week.
So we hereby
direct all our state councils to immediately pass the information round to the whole 36 state council, including Abuja, that starting from tomorrow, the 15% deduction should be made to anybody that is traveling to vote in its various states across the nation. The electorate must present their PVC at the point of loading to ascertain that such a person is going for election.
The union urges INEC to release electoral materials to their drivers early enough to avoid delays on the election day. In another development, the federal government has ordered the immediate payment of February's salary to its civil servants across the country. This is to make it easy for those that have to travel for the purpose of exercising their franchise in the rescheduled general elections. Information Minister Lai Mohammed announced this while briefing newsmen after the meeting of the Federal Executive Council. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that the council also applauded the various corporate organizations for their magnanimous undertakings in support of the electoral process. Moving on now, still on elections matter. INEC in Kebbi says all is set for Saturday's election. Let's now get details of this and other reports from Nura in Sokoto Network Center. Nura, it's over to you.
Lydia, and welcome to Sokoto. The Independent National Electoral Commission in Kebbi State says materials for the rescheduled presidential and national assembly elections are ready and intact. Resident Electoral Commissioner in the state, Ahmad Bello Mahmoud, stated this while briefing newsmen on the level of preparations by the Commission. The report.
Kebbi State has about 2 million registered voters, out of which about 300,000 were the new voters registered in the 2017 continuous voter registration exercise. With over 70% of the permanent voters card collected, eligible voters are expected to cast their votes across the 2,398 polling units in the 21 local government areas of the state. The Independent National Electoral Commission in the state says it is fully prepared for the scheduled presidential and national assembly elections.
I can confirm that we've received virtually all the critical materials we need. Sensitive materials we need. I can confirm you now everything is here. But I can also tell you one form is misplaced, Kaduna or so. We've received report that it's on its way here.
The National Orientation Agency in Kebbi State has re-strategized sensitization campaign for voters to come out en masse and exercise their franchise.
It is eminent that the National Orientation Agency comes out to awaken the consciousness of the electorate to come out and vote.
Other stakeholders advocated for violent-free elections across the state.
The current administration in Sokoto State has expended about 2 billion naira in financing activities of Zakat and Endowment Commission from inception to date. The latter Abdullah reports that Governor Waziri Tambol made the disclosure at the distribution of assistance to the needy, widows and orphans in Sokoto. The report.
Fatima Muazu, a mother of 6 orphans who participated among other 5 needy, is lucky to capture a cow through Islamic system of voting valued at 130,000 naira. About 700 beneficiaries comprising of orphans, needy and disabled benefited from assistance of food items, mattresses, freezers, grinding and sewing machines to start business for self-reliance. The breakdown shows that the items distributed include 200 medium-sized bags of rice, 100 grinding machines, 90 sewing machines, 100 mattresses, 33 refrigerators, and 100 bags of diabetic supplement for diabetic patients. The rest include home renovation and rent payment for 30 needy and assistance for 40 victims of fire incidents. The popular appeal is on the well-to-do individuals to see provision of care to the less privileged as a collective responsibility.
This administration so far has expended nearly 2 billion naira on activities of this commission. And I appeal to the beneficiaries of this program to apply and use the items that are going to be given judiciously.
Governor Aminu Waziri Tambol also pledges to give a cow to each of the 5 participants of the voting who could not win and add a sheep and 2 bags of rice to the winner. In Sokoto, Dalata Abdullahi, NTA News.
And that's our contribution from Sokoto. Is back to leader in Abuja for more nationwide.
Many thanks, Nura. We now take another break. Nationwide continues afterwards. Don't go away.
Nigerian women, una dead, market women, una dead, time we don't reach, where we go pay back. Person we make life better, make we vote now. Who give us electricity? President Buhari. Airport, President Buhari. Railway, President Buhari. Peace and security, President Buhari. He dey feed our children, President Buhari. For school, President Buhari. Better road, President Buhari. 4+4, President Buhari. Job creation, President Buhari. Empower, President Buhari. Trade and money, President Buhari. Nigerian women, time we don't reach, where we go pay back.
This message is brought to you by Ajia Salamatu Bewa, National Woman Leader, APC.
Niger people, make we make the right choice, yo. Make we vote for a man of integrity. Hey, and so make we gather together and make this change. What my people of Nigeria, together we go carry Niger to the next level. Niger don't decide. Vote Baba Buhari. Baba Buhari, the man of integrity. Hey, vote Baba Buhari. Man, we no corrupt, we no go chop our money. Agriculture, the next level, fight corruption, the next level, good roads, to the next level, electricity, to the next level, railway, the next level, empower, the next level, we got money. For good health we go, Baba Buhari, my people, for the next level, APC, next level. Niger people, make we all come out to vote Baba Buhari.
This message is from Buhari Next Level Group.
Over 1 trillion naira housing investment in just 3 years. Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing is sinking over 100 billion naira. Family Home Fund is investing over 500 billion naira. Federal Mortgage Bank Limited has invested billions of naira on housing finance. Federal Housing Authority is also spending billions of naira to house Nigerians. With a population of over 180 million Nigerians, housing development never got the desired attention until this time of President Muhammadu Buhari. While shanties and dilapidated buildings characterized Nigerian landscape in the past, the Buhari's government now is sinking billions of naira for inclusive housing for all Nigerians. For 16 years, the Federal Housing Authority had no single finance from the federal government, but within 3 years of President Buhari, the Federal Housing Authority is back on site, building houses for Nigerians. Supporting Mr. President is a support for more houses to Nigerians. Let's ensure continuity. Let's vote for the man who is doing it.
Edition of TV Guide is out with special focus on the role of the media in election coverage. Exclusive on the National Broadcasting Commission, its mandate as the sole regulator of Nigerian media. Dr. Toba Daba then and Ishak Modibo Kawu now. This edition also features the king of stand-up comedy in Nigeria, Ali Baba. NTA Standard to be ready for election transmission after decades of abandonment. Find out from the DG. Transactional elections in our political space. An evil wind that blows no good. DG, National Orientation Agency, calls on TV Guide, your indispensable companion, x-rays the impact of social media on electioneering process as electorates present their expectations from incoming government. Meet some TV professionals behind the screen and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Welcome. We now join Chinyere in Enugu for more reports.
Thousands of people have been repositioned for self-reliance in Enugu State. They are also to smile to the bank soon to receive their trader money. This is coming from the federal government as part of its nationwide empowerment scheme. Beauty Ebubami reports on its flag-up exercise.
Teach a man to fish and not give him fish. Of this micro enterprises empowerment scheme, which covers a wide range of poverty alleviation programs, skill acquisition, and traders' money, designed to lift millions of Nigerians out of poverty.
I never thought it's true, but I'm very happy it's true. Because when it started, I thought this was a mere play or childish game. For me to be going it every day, I thought it will never come to pass, but here I am being a happy beneficiary.
The empowerment scheme is to ensure that the foundation of prosperity as captured in the economic recovery and growth plan by the federal government.
And appealing to the beneficiaries today to please be prudent in managing the resource and the equipment at their disposal.
The scheme is also to further extend the federal government articulated policies which empowered citizens for self-reliance.
The president has empowered hundreds of thousands of youth and women through articulated policies, programs, and sustained support.
The kind of collaboration that exists between the federal and the state government on issues ranging from the central bank interventions, the Bank of Industry interventions, and today the NDE intervention must be noted.
The message of the organizers to the beneficiaries here today is the little capital in your hands, if well managed, your prosperity is guaranteed in Enugu. Beauty and NTA News.
That's our contribution from Enugu. Caleb Injust has more stories on Nationwide.
Countdown to February 23rd, general election continues. More appeals on the voters to shun the feelings of disappointment over the rescheduled election and turn out en masse this Saturday to exercise their franchise. Ashezi Gopiep spoke with some top government officials and opinion leaders in Plateau State.
The governor, Minister for Youth and Sports, and former Deputy Governor of Plateau State and some opinion leaders urged the people of Plateau State not to be disillusioned by the rescheduling of the elections, but turn out en masse this Saturday to cast their ballots.
My appeal to the citizens of the state is to please remain patient. I know they are disappointed. This will be over.
I want to sincerely appeal to Nigerians to give INEC the desirable support to conduct credible, free and fair elections and deliver leaders for this country. So therefore there is a need for us to be very, very peaceful.
As responsible citizens, they added, Nigerians should remain calm and law-abiding and also contribute towards peace building and sustaining the country's democracy.
Please come out and vote and remain peaceful. After voting, ensure your votes are counted. If you decide to remain there, be calm and peaceful. Election not be war.
They call on INEC to make concerted efforts to addressing all logistics and operational challenges that led to the rescheduling of the polls, and to security agencies to be proactive in intelligence gathering to curb any form of security threats towards protection of lives and properties of citizens. In Jos, Ashezi Gopek, NTA News.
Thank you very much, Caleb. Now, the weather.